Well, hello. Uh, Today is August 16th. My name is Brendan. I'm the CEO of Open Owl Studios, and I'm excited to just jump into a live chat. Figured, Natalie and I, we have our monthly podcast, but figured it would be neat to, jump into a semi-regular, um, just casual live cast. I have a blog going on, and sometimes it's good to kind of provide some context to the blog. So feel free to uh, um, join it. It's a free blog. We're hosting it on Patreon, and we do that because we also offer uh, a $0 shipping tier for all of our crowdfunding campaigns. That is about $250 a month. And so, I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but you can just join the blog aspect for free. So I originally titled the blog post, Why Stone Saga is Late, and something got edited out of that. And so it's current, what it is the current state of Stone Saga SOA 1.5 and Mythwind. If you have questions, feel free to just drop them in the comments below. I'll try to get to them as we go. But my goal is to kind of give a little bit of context about our 3 active ongoing campaigns right now. So for those of you who are unaware, we have Stone Saga, Stars of Icarios 1.5, and the Mythwind reprint and revisions as all kind of ongoing campaigns. Um, you know, Obviously, not ideal that we have 3 outstanding at the moment, but we're not worried from our perspective on delivering and fulfilling. We've delivered everything to our backers, albeit it has been late with the original Stars and Mythwind, but we've delivered in some very hard circumstances with with COVID when Stars hit, and then Mythwind as well. And so excited to get them into your hands. I want to kind of use this as a little bit of context. Like sometimes I think developers, they often we have a habit of putting out dates and maybe not hitting the dates, especially in the Kickstarter world. Anyone who has backed games on Kickstarter knows about the delays and all the stuff. And so just going into the conversation, I have to do a casual confession where there's a part of me that is like an eternal optimist. I think you kind of need that when you're kind of growing a company and trying to make some of the games that we're making. You can't have the heavy dose of realism to even embark on some of these games. And so that is the kind of upfront confession where oftentimes, and you will have seen this, where there's the reality of the delivery doesn't meet the what is projected at the beginning. And in the past 6 months, we've hired a couple of individuals onto the team who kind of are, not that they're not optimists, but they kind of balance me out. And so we're going through a little bit of a growth stage where ideally we present to you the community as as a delivery date, and we hit that delivery date. That's our goal, for it to kind of be clockwork and just kind of shorten up the back end of the crowdfunding campaign as well. So that's kind of where we're going, but let me just dive in. So Stone Saga, I'm just following along with the blog, and I'll kind of update as we go. So we launched I think we launched in February or April 2023. Original ETA, estimated time of arrival for that was April 2024. And our current ETA is late Q1, early Q2 2025. So about a year late from our original estimate, 2 years from the crowdfunding campaign. The largest difficulty with Stone Saga has been it's probably twofold. On the one side, there are the number of complex systems that make up the game. So if you think of like, Stone Saga in many ways, it has a lot of open world kind of sandboxy gameplay mechanics, and when you think of those types of games, they tend to just be comprised of different systems, right? So specifically on Stone Saga, you have your crafting system, you have the fishing system, the foraging system, the mining system, the refining, and the building system, the challenge system, the behemoth, the delving, and so there's a lot of these different systems, and the magic of the gameplay is when they're all overlapping. And that's when the really kind of special stuff happens with Stone Saga, and the unique stories get told. And so because there are so many systems, they have knock on effects with one another. And when we went to Kickstarter, we had I think, yeah, all of our systems were developed in the game, and we went in with our first kind of three scenarios with a map of the rest of the project. So we're like, hey, we just have to buckle down and do development, and we felt good about our timeline. But the reality is, as as Max and Luke and the team started development more and more, we realized that some of the systems that we had developed, specifically, there's two that come to mind, like the behemoth and the delving system, needed to get refined and updated. And so those two sets of mechanics have gone through, I think, 3, 4, 5 different overhauls, different revisions, and that has been significant in timeline, right? And as we test, as we do all this stuff, and so that's just like, that's just has had a large effect on the development delay of Stone Saga. Secondly, so we have kind of the system-based gameplay, which is really good. And secondly, it's just like there's so much content in the game. I think 700 plus cards. We have there's a rule book, and then there's a codex. The codex is where all the kind of mysteries and discoveries are. I think there's over 100,000 words in that codex. There's so much content in the game that when we look, I was thinking about this because we'll eventually go back after we fulfill. We'll eventually do a reprint campaign, and I'm like, there's no way we're charging 99 USD for the MSRP of the game. No way. It's in my mind, it's a minimum 129 USD game. There's just, and it's not like physically there's a lot of stuff, and then on the content end, it is smashed in there. So like it is a dense box full of goodness. And but because there's so much content, right, that just means the rulebook's huge, the codex is huge, there's a lot of cards to go through. And we wanted to make sure, we're doing everything on our end to make sure that we don't need to do a set of revisions after we launch this. Obviously, like any game like this, there's going to be some errata and some FAQ, just because it doesn't matter how many rounds of editing that ends up happening. But we don't ideally, we don't have, well, we're not going to have like a 1.5 edition like we did with Stars. I can guarantee you that. Oh, hey, thanks, StreamYard. And we're not going to, ideally, we don't have to do any like revisions like Mythwind. We had a little kind of reprint pack for the rulebooks if you want an updated rulebook. I don't think we'll even need to do that because of the extra steps that we're taking with Stone Saga. So multiple rounds of editing. We have our tech editor working through it right now. He's doing a fantastic job. He actually just finished up a bunch of Stars 1.5 stuff, and really excited about that. So he's wrapping up the rulebook, and then he's being handed off the codex and all of the components. And then we're going to implement all of those changes, have the layout. The only kind of graphic design piece besides tweaks and changes that needs to get finished is a rulebook and the codex. And then after that is finished, we will do a studio review. From the studio review, we will hand off the files to the printers and to our localization translation partners, and then we begin the kind of production cycle. So it's great that we're here. I know the guys have been. I'm trying to think. So I think Max and we started talking about this game like 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, and then Luke joined about 6 months after that, and so it's been a ride. It's been a ride. There's so much there, that we're thrilled for it to get into your hands, finally. So 2025 will be a really fun year for that. We are, on the blog post, I have a couple of like learnings from each of these projects. I mentioned the one about, uh, don't underestimate the time of interweaving game systems. This is kind of a similar learning to what we had with Mythwind. And another one, which is like a process one, which, Derek, one of the new team members, is helping us flesh out a little bit, is, kind of this earlier stage of, what we're calling like scope lock. So letting the game breathe and explore for a while, but then once we get to a stage of like, hey, this is what the game is, this is the scope, and then not kind of going outside of that. It's tough because it's like, I think there's some scope areas where we could have reined in a little bit and been like, hey, let's save this for an expansion on Stone Saga. But like I mentioned, a lot of the issues of time, were in like the mechanics and some of these systems. Like the mechanics are fun. It's like, how do you make the systems like enjoyable for the entire campaign, where it's like a meaningful thing? And yeah. So that's a big one. So Stone Saga, it's big. We're, aiming for the end of, Q1 2025, early Q2. We're looking at uh, like 2 years from when we crowdfunded it. The uh, um, the pledge manager is still open. I think it's open for another month or so, and then it'll close down, and then we'll click the print button. We're really excited about that. Okay, so that's the Stone Saga recap. Um, Mythwind, actually, first before Mythwind, Stars 1.5. So we we crowdfunded in October or November 2023, I believe, and we had an original estimated time of arrival of October 2024. And there was actually a chance that we were going to hit that, originally, but then we're doing kind of a review of the digital sample, which I actually have like, I don't let's see if I have a whole table that's like just a mess of stars, sample stuff from the factory. Doing the review from sample stuff and realized, hey, we need to pause here and do another round of editing. And so that's what we did. Inserted probably like a 4 to 8 week delay, because of this round of editing. Kind of expanded our budget, which wasn't ideal, but it's, we figured we want 1.5 to be the definitive edition of Stars. We're not planning like a 2.0 right now. The idea is to get kind of Stars. This is the game. This is Stars. We want to wrap this and make sure it's like an enjoyable experience for everyone. And I think it is, right? People love the first game, and I think that we're just really building and, kind of honing in on what makes the first game great, and doing that. And same with the expansions, the battles and the drones of Icarios expansions. And so, the for us, we were going to do this process with just one round of editing, of our rulebook, but we realized there's a value of another round, with the tech editor, especially for our games that are kind of so complex and they have so many interconnected components and all these different elements. And so this is something that, big learning for us. We're always going to schedule this in the future. We're gonna, yeah. And the other thing, which I mentioned, is we're gonna do or we're gonna try as hard as possible to never have to do kind of a 1.5 version again. Put all the extra work in beforehand to avoid this scenario. So as much as we've enjoyed this experience, ideally we make a game, we ship it, it's great. We can reprint that, do expansions, and not worry about having to come back and do the 1.5 edition. So that's where we're at with Stars. Really excited to have that wrapped up. And so, where are we as far as the process goes? We are everything has been finished internally. We are having our graphic designer wrap up a few things on their end, and we're going back and forth with the factory to get these files ready for review, and then ready for print. So last stages, really excited. We I feel pretty confident about the Q1 delivery date. So the reason why we feel confident, right? It's about 3 months for print, brings us to November, December. Get that on a boat, and so I'll be delivering hopefully in Q1. Feel pretty good about that. The I was going to mention something on that. Nope, that's okay. Slipped. So that's the Stars update. Really, really cool. We originally estimated October. So, a couple months late on that. October to February, March-ish. That's that. Ideally we're on time, but I think that's great in the sense that we're showing progress there. So that's Stars 1.5. Lastly, our Mythwind reprint and Friends and Family expansion. Nathan has been crushing this. We just received the set of samples for all of the original campaign stuff, like all the revised stuff. And then we're going to receive the samples for the Friends and Family stuff in a couple of weeks. The files, I'm trying to think, all of the internal work, there's been some rounds of testing, a bunch of rounds of editing. And so we are compiling all of the files for review, for studio review at the end of this week for Stars. Sorry, not for Stars, for Mythwind. And then we are delivering them to the factory at the end of next week. As soon as we get final confirmation for the core box files, we're going to start the print run on all the core box stuff, and then as that's happening, we'll receive the Friends and Family expansion. We'll review that, make any changes we need, and then we'll put that into production as well. So there's a small chance that we end up putting Stars. So these are two different factories. Mythwind is with Longpack, Stars is with eStar. So we used eStar for the original Stars, and Longpack for the original Mythwind. There's a chance that both of these games are finished at a similar time. If that's the case, we might end up packaging them in the same containers and then shipping them out. Just kind of depends. We'll see what Kevin, our logistics guy, ends up working out. But that could be fun for us. Save us a few $1,000s. I think internally, I was like, if it would cause more than a 2 to 4 week delay to package them together, then we won't do it. So that's where we're at with Mythwind, but it's right there. Interesting thing with Mythwind is we have a lot of distributor orders for this time around. So that's a whole new world. And having 3 games in manufacturing and delivering at the same time is a little bit crazy from a logistics perspective, and not our favorite thing at the moment. But we feel confident with the systems and the partners that we've built up through our past two campaigns, or 2 large campaigns. As a team, we've done 4, but kind of the 2 before Stars were pretty small. So our past 2 large campaigns, we feel confident about the systems and partners that we have in place to fulfill all 3 of these campaigns. Stars and Mythwind being relatively at the same time, and then Stone Saga a little bit later, is great. I kind of in a sense leaves us at this blank slate as a company. And I'll talk more about this in a future blog post, but that blank slate's going to get filled pretty quickly for 2025. We have, as many of you know, you've seen the Storyfold Wildwoods update. So that's crowdfunding in, we're tentatively October, November was kind of what we're paying for that date, and beyond excited. This is our first, I'll say it out loud, our first sub $50 retail version game ever. Well, okay. If you go back in our history, Games, then it's not. You can actually see a couple of them. But if you think of like Stars and onwards, right, the Open Owl history, it is our kind of most accessible game. It's a solo only single player game. We are in a round of testing right now with some external feedback. I'm just pulling it up here, and there is so much as far as content goes. So much content, and so really excited about all of that. Sorry, by content I mean a lot of feedback on it. It's been great. They're testing the prologue, they're testing the chapter 1, and it's all without a rule book, which is kind of cool. The prologue teaches you how to play. We will have a rule book, but so we're really excited about Storyfold. And Storyfold will launch while Stars and Mythwind are wrapping up manufacturing. And then when we get into 2025, we have a busy year. So we announced last year that there's going to be the Mythwind character expansions. The Daryl Andrews and Jenna Beasley, they are working on one character expansion, and then Nikki Valens is working on the other. I forget what has been announced for that. I think we announced that Nikki Valens is doing a shepherd character. And so we have those two expansions with kind of a reprint of all the Mythwind stuff that'll be happening after we deliver everything from the Friends and Family campaign. And then we will have, after we do Stone Saga, sometime afterwards, what we're going to do is kind of a Stone Saga reprint campaign, because we want to get the game into as many hands as possible. And then we have a few other kind of fun things in the works right now. So, excited to kind of share this journey with you. As a team, we have grown. We have kind of grown our team. So our core team right now is like nine full-time people, and then outside of that, we have a lot of contractors, dozens of contractors and designers that we work with. And so our capacity as a studio to kind of create and deliver products is growing. And, we're excited to share that, right? I'm excited to show that, Stars and 1.5 and Mythwind reprint, that pace has increased on our end. I know they're kind of reprints and they're smaller expansions, but we want to kind of show that. And I believe with with Storyfold coming up, the team has been doing such a fantastic job on it that we're going to be pretty confident about where we are, where we're at in the dev cycle and the dev journey, and our estimated fulfillment dates on that. And so that's high level of everything, the current state of Stone Saga SOA 1.5 and Mythwind. As always, if you have questions, make sure to kind of drop links below. But it's great kind of to take an opportunity just to share a little bit of what is happening in the studio. On a side fun note, my wife and I, we just started playing a campaign of Earthborn Rangers last night on our new board game table. So shout out to was it Allplay, boardgametables.com or allplay.com for that board game table. They didn't provide it. That would be great if they did, but but it's a neat table. And then playing the game is great. I've gotten to know the Andrews just a little bit over the past couple of years. So Fisher and Navarro, as they've kind of gone about and created Earthborn Rangers, and it's exciting to get into it. I played the prologue once, like maybe a year ago, and I wasn't a great kind of situation setting. We didn't have a lot of time to play the prologue, so I didn't have like it soured my taste of the game. But kind of gave it the time last night and kind of dove in and started adventuring around the valley. It's fun. It's great. It's really interesting kind of gameplay. I can see why it's gotten kind of the high praise that it has, and I'm excited to see how it'll develop. Right, we're still on day one. I actually didn't realize how much you could get done in a single day, and so that's been really exciting to see and to play. Great. Hey, well, everyone, thank you so much for joining live or joining late. Hope you enjoyed this update. Excited to kind of deliver these games and for you to be journeying with us in these upcoming months. All right, take care.